14th of May from Channel M, this is the Lunchtime News. Here are the top stories this Thursday. The wife stabbed to death by her abusive husband. Now police could be sued for not taking action sooner. Also coming up, Olympic gold medal sprinter Christina Horugu's in Manchester, ready to cheer on the crowds in this weekend's 10K.
I think it's also important that we make sports, we make athletics and running accessible to as many people as possible. And I think having kind of bringing the sports to the streets is one way of doing that, letting everyone come around.
And the volunteers ready to make sure the Manchester International Festival is a huge success.
They're going to be doing lots of different things, such as doing hospitality in the city centre, giving directions to visitors, telling them all about the festival. Also, we've got office-based assistants and people doing photography and research and film as well.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, Greater Manchester Police could end up in court over the death of a woman who was murdered by her violent husband. Sabina Akhtar was stabbed to death months after she complained that she was in fear for her life. With more on our top story, here's Ben Bland.
When Sabina Akhtar's husband began turning violent, she did everything by the book, bravely coming forward to tell the police, offering to give evidence in court. She even warned them that he'd kill her if he got the chance. Malik Manan was arrested and then released on bail, but the Crown Prosecution Service decided not to charge him. Last September, he went to the 26-year-old's home in Longsight and killed her with a single stab wound to the heart. After Malik Manan was given a life sentence in March, Sabina's family spoke of their anger at how she'd been let down.
We will miss Sabina very much. Anyway, we are now satisfied that justice has been done and the killer deserved the punishment for the crime he has committed. Sabina's parents blamed CPS for their wrong decision not to charge Malik Manan at an earlier stage. This was simply negligence.
The same day, the Crown Prosecution Service apologised.
Who in their circumstances would not blame the CPS? I entirely understand their point of view, and we have offered our unreserved apology to them. We'll be meeting them face to face to confirm that.
But the domestic violence charity Refuge is planning to sue the CPS and Greater Manchester Police, who they're accusing of breaching human rights legislation. The CPS says it hasn't received any details of such an action and feels it would be inappropriate to discuss it. GMP didn't make any comment. If this case against them did go to court, it would be the first one of its kind, possibly setting a precedent for the future. Ben Bland, Channel M News.
Up to 15,000 jobs are going at BT. The telecoms firm's getting rid of 10% of its workforce after announcing big losses for the last year. Boss has also confirmed 15,000 staff have already been laid off in the past 12 months. Gordon Brown is holding talks with a senior Labour official after one of his former ministers claimed £16,000 for a mortgage he wasn't even paying. Elliot Morley's the latest MP to end up on the front of the papers over his expenses. A campaign group's also threatening the Scunthorpe MP with a private prosecution over it, though he says he doesn't believe he's committed any offence. That as Tory MP Andrew Mackay has resigned over his claims. The Bracknell MP was claiming full second home allowance for his London home, while his wife, who's also an MP, claimed the full second home allowance for the same house. 3 police workers have been suspended over computer porn allegations. Greater Manchester Police started an investigation after claims that a member of staff had obscene images on his computer at work. Well, our reporter Nina Warhurst joins us now with some more on this story. Nina, what do we know about the content of these emails?
Well, James, as you said, an investigation was launched after a worker received an email with a number of pornographic images on. Now, what we do know is on one of them there was allegedly a woman performing a sex act on a man. And what's of real concern is there's also allegedly a child on that photograph. Now, according to reports, the investigation at the moment is looking at whether the image has been altered to include the child and at whether those who received or forwarded the email were aware that there was a child on the image. Now, one of the workers who raised concerns about the images has been suspended, and as a result of their suspension, there's been an investigation in other computers leading to the suspension of another 2 members of staff. Now, the police are saying that it's a neutral act. They've been sent home without prejudice pending the results of the investigation.
And who are these workers?
Well, these aren't bobbies off the beat. These are members of what's called the Corporate Communications Branch. That's around 30 members of staff, including people who work for the press office, the PR department, its internal communications and the Force website. At the moment, that's all we've got from Greater Manchester Police. They don't think it's appropriate to comment until the investigation's complete, but we'll have the latest on it at 5 o'clock.
OK, Nina Warhurst, thanks very much for the update. A search is on for some suspected eco-vandals who've been attacking 4x4s in Lady Barn and Withington. 20 have had their tyres slashed or let down with a note put on them saying they're adding to climate change. Police have called it mindless vandalism, even if whoever's responsible thinks they're making a point. Final preparations are on for this weekend's Manchester 10K. Tens of thousands of runners will be pounding the streets to raise money for charity. Olympic gold medal sprinter Christina Horugu will be setting off the race and then competing later on in a showpiece 150-metre sprint on Deansgate. She joined Byron and Nikki on this morning's breakfast show to explain why she enjoys such high-profile events.
I think it's also important that we make athletics and running accessible to as many people as possible. And I think having bringing the sports to the streets is one way of doing that, letting everyone come around, because I think we kind of think that the only way to run is in a stadium, and that gets, it's nice to bring in a new idea and allow it to be accessible to all types of people.
You just come back from LA, you were telling us. You've been doing some training out in the States. What for?
It's general warm weather training we go every single year, just to go out there. It's nice to have some warm weather, as you can see outside, it's very cold. Yeah. And we go out and we race as well, so I had a couple of races out there. And I think it's just nice also to get away and get, refocused for the year, because our season, in effect, starts pretty much on Sunday. My season starts, so it's just nice to go out and get my head together.
Has it been a complete whirlwind after the Beijing Games?
It's been pretty crazy, and it was hard because a month after the Games, I still had to go back into training. So it was having to meet the demands of all the extra stuff I had to do plus train, so it was quite exhausting. So, but, the same, I wouldn't change it. It's been fun and I've learned so much from it, so, I'm kind of happy it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So you should be.
So you should be. Absolutely phenomenal. But like you say, but your feet have barely touched the ground, haven't they? What have you got left to achieve in your career? Because, as you say, you've got a gold medal now at the Olympics. Where do you go from there?
Track and field is unique in the sense that we have a competition every year. So even though you have the Olympic Games, you still have to, and unless you retire, you're still kind of looking to get more and more and more medals. So this year I'll be defending my World Champs title in Berlin. And next year, hopefully, I can try and pick up a European medal, which I haven't got yet. So that'll be nice to kind of complete my set.
Work on a new museum in Bury is nearing completion. The attraction dedicated to the Fusiliers will open in the summer, but we've been treated to an early preview to see how it's looking.
We've moved a mile down the road from the old Wellington Barracks on Bolton Road into not necessarily a new building, but a refurbished old building, which will now be the home not only of the Lancashire Fusilier collection, but the new Royal Regiment of Fusiliers collection. We have a jacket relating to Arnott, Surgeon Arnott, who was the surgeon who carried out the autopsy on Napoleon on St Helena. And we've had mannequins made of some of these people, which are very, very lifelike. We have a replica First World War trench. Dare I say, it is a captured German trench. And we have a fascinating wedding dress from 1915. A young lady married a subaltern who went off to war, indeed was wounded and finished the war without a lung. And I'm sure people find the whole thing fascinating when they come and see us on the 27th.
Right, let's take a check on the lunchtime sports headlines now. With those details for us, here's Ian Irving.
Thanks, James. Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson has said an offer has been made to Carlos Tevez for the strikers to stay at Old Trafford. But his advisor, Kia Joorabchian, says that the Reds have so far made no offer to Tevez, despite talks already taking place. Well, Ferguson's comments come after a stunning goal from the Argentine sent United to the brink of winning the Premier League title again. The champions need just 1 point to retain their crown after the 2-1 win at Wigan last night. Hugo Rogaleda has given the hosts an early lead, but a goal from Tevez and a late strike from Michael Carrick gave the Reds the 3 points. Well, with Sir Alex set to win yet another Premiership medal, the debate to see who will succeed him continues to gather pace. And Wigan boss Dave Whelan believes Steve Bruce is the man for the job.
Man U don't seem to appoint foreign managers. I can't remember one they've appointed. And Steve Bruce, in my mind, is the number one to replace Sir Alex. I'd hate to lose him, but it would be wonderful for Steve and wonderful for Man U. But it's all on when will Sir Alex retire? He's so good. He looks better than ever. He's got that gleam in his eye again, and he's looking like he's enjoying every minute of it. And I hope he carries on for another 3 or 4 years.
On to cricket now, and England are looking to claim another win in the Test series against the West Indies. The latest score we have from the Riverside is that the hosts are 31 for no wicket, and the West Indies' build-up to the game has been beset by all manner of problems, including skipper Chris Gale's comments that he disliked Test cricket and is looking to give up the captaincy of the side. And staying with the sport, Francois Duplessis top-scored for Lancs with his first century, finally getting out for 112, which he took just 86 balls to get to. The home side began their reply well, but from 99 for 2, lost their remaining 8 wickets for 76. Lancashire's Gary Keady taking an impressive 4 for 43. In Rugby League, Salford City Reds have confirmed Wigan's Darryl Goulding will remain at the Willows on a rolling contract until the end of the season, although he could be recalled to the JJB at 24 hours' notice. Salford's Director of Football Steve Sims was on this morning's breakfast show and told Byron and Mike just why the club had decided to try and keep hold of the 21-year-old three-quarter.
So we've got Darryl on loan from Wigan. He'll be with us until they want him back, or the season, whichever may happen. But he's a very good player, a good young player, up-and-coming player. Obviously, Wigan have signed Gleeson from Warrington, and he becomes surplus to them, so we've grabbed him.
It's the last in a series tonight of Talking Sharks, featuring a very special interview with Sale coach Kingsley Jones. Here's a slightly bizarre sneak preview.
That's part of my philosophy. I want to, as a coach, I want to spot players, improve players, and bring them through. The easiest thing in the world is go out and get your checkbook and sign Carl Eamon and all these names, but that's not a magic formula. You know, if that was the case, I would suggest that anyone playing Chelsea just gets drunk the night before and don't bother turning up the next day. The point being is that if you look at the sides that have achieved this year, Irish, Quins, I mean, they got a star-studded lineup. Don't think so. You know, 2 years ago, a lot of the Irish lads, you would have said, who are they? You know, who's Sackenbow? Who's, Topsy Ojo, oh, he's okay, you know? Young Armitage, the open side flanker, everyone raves about him. He's come through. Monye, and they come through. And they've stepped up. You know, Danny Kerr wasn't playing for Quins 2 years ago. He was just left from Leeds, a young kid. You know, and now he's the best thing in the world. So, you know, anyone watching, part of the coaching job and the biggest part is to spot people, improve people through the academy system and bring them through. And like I say, it's easy to spot people playing and go out and buy them and sign them. You always need to do that. You always need quality in your squad, but I feel we've got enough quality.
Kingsley also talks about his love of motorbikes, in case you're wondering why they were lay there together. Anyway, finally, the exodus at Edgeley Park looks set to continue, with Ollie Johnson and Geoff Thompson both being linked to a move to Premiership side West Brom. Well, that's all your sport for now. We'll have more at 5 o'clock, but for now, back to James.
Ian, thanks very much. There's plenty still to come on the Lunchtime News, including a look ahead to next month's Manchester International Festival and the tiny brewery round here that's suddenly been given its biggest ever order by one of the country's major supermarkets.
We all sat down one day and said, yeah, let's go for it. And there's a lot of big boys in there, and I don't know, in the back of your head, you don't think you're in with a chance. But here we are in the last 15.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're here every day between 12 and 1 with all of Greater Manchester's headlines. You can always check out our reports online as well at channelm.co.uk. Log on right now to see all the details of the £1.4 billion upgrade of Greater Manchester's public transport network that's been announced, and also hero Danny Boyle getting Freedom of Borough at a prestigious ceremony there as well. channelm.co.uk. With less than 2 months to go, organisers of the Manchester International Festival are stepping up their preparations. A special event's been held for the 300 or so volunteers who will be helping the 2-week event happen. Our very own Georgia Calvin-Smith went along to find out more.
The artistic extravaganza that will be the Manchester International Festival launches in July, but it couldn't happen without the 300 volunteers who've kindly offered their services up without pay. Now, Caroline is in charge of organising all of them. You must be pretty pleased with the turnout.
Oh, I'm absolutely thrilled. It's fantastic. Just having a look around the Great Hall today and just seeing all the diversity of the volunteers that we have on board. And they're all, like you say, really enthusiastic and up for it. And we're just absolutely made up about it. They're going to be doing lots of different things, such as doing hospitality in the city centre, giving directions to visitors, telling them all about the festival. Also, we've got office-based assistants and people doing photography and research and film as well.
Oh, that sounds really exciting. Well, it's the second time that the festival's actually been held in Manchester, and Alex is in charge of organising that side of things. Alex, it must be a pretty big coup for Manchester for the festival to be held here.
I think it's a great thing. The city has always done things in a very original and singular way, and rather than imitate other festivals like Glastonbury or Edinburgh, for them to have their own very special festival that's about commissioning new work, I think it's a good thing. We're very pleased that PZ Cousins are helping us with this event today.
The festival's all about art, theatre and popular culture, and the 300 volunteers that are being thanked tonight are handpicked from over 500 applicants. This is going to be Janice's second time as a volunteer. Are you looking forward to it?
So very, very much, yes, indeed. In fact, as soon as the email came through about the volunteering, I hit that button to be part of it, and we have been doing some interviewing in the build-up to the event tonight, and also promoting the festival in towns outside the city.
So you've already been put to work?
I certainly have, yes. It's great.
Well, Emma, I understand this is going to be your first time. Do you know what you're letting yourself in for?
Not yet. As a project volunteer, we get involved in a range of events. However, with the diversity of 2007's events, I'm sure that the calibre of it will be even better this year. So.
It does sound really exciting. Well, the event runs from the 2nd to the 19th of July, and although there's going to be a lot of free events on, there's also a lot of stuff that you're going to need a ticket for. So if there's something that you're particularly interested in, make sure that you visit the festival website. Georgia Calvin-Smith, Channel M News.
Supermarkets could soon be forced by law to put up warning signs about alcohol. They'd include things like telling pregnant women they shouldn't be drinking and flagging up the link between how much people drink and things like obesity and heart disease. The suggestions have been drawn up following the relaxing of drinking laws 4 years ago. Well, I'm joined now by Alison Giles from the campaign group One Life. Thank you very much for Our Life, apologies. Thank you for joining us. How much of a difference do you think such labelling supermarkets would make?
It will make some difference because we know that people find it difficult to gauge how much they're drinking, and also the messages about the health harms aren't really out there getting through in the way that we want them to. People know about liver disease, but things you've just mentioned like heart disease and obesity and breast cancer people are a lot less aware of. So I think it will help raise awareness of the risks.
But labels in supermarkets, are they really going to tackle the reasons behind, why people are drinking? Because that can be quite hard to get into, and I suppose it's quite varied for a lot of people, isn't it?
It is, and what's actually been announced is a code of conduct for the whole of the drinks industry, and what we are also very keen to support in this code are the bans on the heavy discounting promotions that you see in bars and pubs that are really driving people to drink more than perhaps they intended to when they went out, just simply because it's there in front of them and being poured down their throats.
Those bans on those promotions, do you think that that'll actually cut people's consumption, or will it just mean they spend more?
I suspect it may well help cut people's consumption just because people are encouraged to drink more than perhaps they intended to. What it won't do anything for, and what isn't being tackled, is the price that you can buy drink in supermarkets. So there is a risk that people will drink more before they go out to bars and pubs because they can buy it much more cheaply in the supermarkets, and that's something that we want to see government address. OK, well, we'll wait and see how these new rules pan out. Thank you very much for joining us this lunchtime. A ban on going to the toilet has been brought in at some council meetings in Wigan. Officials have been told anyone who leaves council meetings while discussing upcoming planning issues will be stopped from voting on the proposals. It's claimed some of their discussions have had so many people coming and going they look more like a sponsored walk. They're worried it could leave them open to legal challenges if decisions are made by people without all the necessary information. A brewery from Wigan is celebrating after landing a massive order from one of the big supermarkets. It's been asked to supply 40,000 bottles of Porter-esque beer to Sainsbury's for a British beer competition. The business currently only has 4 full-time members of staff.
My business may be threatened, I'll tell you that much. My business, I think it's struggling. I don't think anybody's not struggling. Everybody's struggling. Everybody. If people say they're not struggling, they're lying, telling lies. It's affecting everybody.
Well, I'm self-employed, so kind of take a different perspective on it, yeah. But I've seen a difference, yeah, definitely.
I think time at the moment maybe at the general level it is harder in the broader economy, but I think we're starting to see more activity on the ground this year than we did last year. So we operate in the private equity industry, venture capital, and there's definitely more happening this year than there was last year.
Totally stressed, totally. I've actually just lost my business through it, so fortunately I was working as well, but takings were down by 50% under break even, so I had to close the doors. Left myself with tons of debt.
Well, apologies, that clearly wasn't a brewery. That was a report about researchers who say that workers here in the north are the least stressed of any in the country. That's even with all the problems many employers are facing because of the recession. Those surveyed from London were found to have the most worries. Experts reckon a fifth of those questioned are more likely to be involved in an accident at work because of stress. Let's now return to that report about the brewery, which has had a very large order from one of the main supermarkets.
Welcome to Allgates Brewery in Wigan, where they're celebrating a massive deal with Sainsbury's. John, tell us about this order you've clinched.
We entered the competition, Sainsbury's beer competition 2009. There was 134, I think, beers in it. We're now in the last 15. So we now have to supply 40,000 bottles of Porter's beer.
That's amazing. Now tell us about the beer.
It's a dark, rich, classic porter. It's 4.4%, and it's very moreish.
And how are you going to be able to cope with all these extra bottles of beer?
It's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have. At least it's secured a few jobs, hopefully.
Absolutely, and it's not easy days during the recession either, is it? Why did you enter the competition in the first place?
I've no idea.
You were just feeling fairly lucky.
Indeed. I haven't got a clue. We all sat down one day and said, yeah, let's go for it. And there's a lot of big boys in there, and I don't know, in the back of your head, you don't think you're in with a chance. But here we are in the last 15.
Absolutely. Well done. Well, it just goes to show that the recession hasn't dampened our appetite for a good pint of beer. Cheers, John.
Cheers.
Well done. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Bev. Well, it's looking fairly cloudy outside at the moment. Let's take a look at what the weather's got in store for the rest of the afternoon with Michelle Eagleton.
Well, we did have an awful lot of cloud this morning, which was a warning that the rain is on its way. So I hope you've got a brolly to hand. Patchy rain throughout the afternoon and highs of between 15 and 16 degrees for most of us. So not really bad in terms of temperatures, quite a mild day. And those rainy patches should die out as we head towards the evening. Next few days, what are they going to be like? Well, keep that brolly handy, because I know that Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday really are going to be rainy and heavy with wind as well. But hopefully, by the time we come to next week, it should take a turn for the better.
This is Channel M, our top stories. Greater Manchester Police could be facing legal action over claims they didn't protect a woman who ended up being murdered by her violent husband. A charity that helps women suffering from domestic violence is planning to bring the case following what happened to Sabina Akhtar. The 26-year-old was stabbed through the heart by Malik Manan. Her family say she would still be alive if he'd been charged earlier. When she complained, she was in fear for her life. If the case is successful, it could lead to more being brought before the courts. 15,000 jobs are going at BT. The company's announced the cuts as it confirmed big losses for last year. And Gordon Brown's holding talks with a senior Labour official after one of his former ministers claimed £16,000 for a mortgage he wasn't even paying. Elliot Morley's the latest MP to end up on the front of the papers over his expenses. Those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. Much more on all those stories with Andy Crane in the evening news from 5 tonight. But from me and all the Lunchtime team, have a very good afternoon. Bye-bye for now.